Good day and welcome to another segment of In the Spotlight. I'm Superintendent Michael Richard, and today I'm very pleased to be joined by a very special member of our staff here today, Roberta Deveno, who is a library media aide at Tatum School. Roberta, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
We start these questions off really easy to warm me up a little bit, and then they're going to get progressively more difficult, all right? But we'll get going with this. Tell the audience at home a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you went to school, how you ended up here in West Side.
Well, I grew up in Springfield, born in Springfield, grew up, went through Springfield schools, High School of Commerce. I was geared for a secretarial position, or that's what I was going to school for. And then I got married and moved to West Springfield, and I've been in West Springfield for 50 years. Had various jobs, growing up, two of which I worked at the Museum of Fine Arts in Springfield, and really learned that to me was like an eye-opener into so many things, architecture, art, and the true meaning of what it is. And there's one little story that comes with the museum, is that the director came down into the department, the curatorial department, and said, "Roberta, I had a visitor last night." And I said, "Really, Mr. Mulberger, who was that?" And he said, "Vincent Price." And I said, "Oh, really?" And so he said, he noticed something in the Chinese gallery. And I said, "Oh, what did I do?" Because part of my job was to label everything in the museum. And he said one of the Chinese sculptors' name was reversed. And I said, "Oh my God." But to me, it was like Vincent Price noticed my mistake. So I said, "I'll take care of that immediately." It was no issue. And then I was a one-girl office for Stanbrook Stationery Company. And there was a salesman there named Doug McGregor, wonderful person, but he lived in Stockbridge. And so he knew, what's his name, the artist, Norman Rockwell. Very good friends with Norman Rockwell. And he said, "I've been talking to Norman about you." And he says, as soon as he's done with John Wayne, he's going to come and do a portrait of you. But unfortunately, Mr. Rockwell passed away after he finished, John Wayne. So I've had a couple of,
brushes with
fame, and it just never happened. But then when my children started coming to school, I was very against sending my kids to, like a nursery school, not nursery school, but to a daycare. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And so I volunteered at Cowing School under Mr. Bampus, in the cafeteria at first. And then a position became available for an aide at Mittenegg. So he said, "You take that." He said, "But I'll get you back here at Cowing." And so I was there at Mittenegg for about a half a year, and then the following year I went to Cowing and was an aide for the 5th grade. And I helped some of the new incoming Russian students, with spelling and history and science. And then Piper Road came into being. And Brenda, who knew me very well, who all my life I was at libraries. I even, there was a grant job that at our public library that I put the information into the computer when they went to automation. So after that job, went back to Cowing, and then she said, "There's a position available at Piper, and I'd really like you to take it." And so I had to interview with John Solomon. And he goes, "I don't know about you," he said. He says, "because when you go down the hall, I'm not going to know if you're the kids or what." But he hired me anyway. And Piper Road was only supposed to be a 1-year or 1 or 2 year position, but it turned out to be 8 years. But it was a very special place. And what we did, the curriculum called for the study of medieval times. And so I got right on the bandwagon, and we started this medieval festival that grew and grew and grew to where we got in a real weaver, a real calligrapher, and each classroom was a guild, and they had to design their own flags because back in the Middle Ages, the populace didn't know how to read. So it was a real learning experience for me there. plus, getting authors in. Lynn Reed Banks of The Indian in the Cupboard came. She was there for 3 days, and she was absolutely wonderful. And so that's the kind of stuff that we don't see anymore, where children are not exposed to authors, mainly because of the price. They are expensive. But seeing the impact that an author has on the students it's incredible, and they really, oh my God, I want to read that book, or it gets them into that genre. And then my job is, okay, you like this genre? I'd like you to try something else. And sometimes it's successful, sometimes it's not, but we just keep on trying.
So you've been at a lot of schools.
Yes.
How did you end up at Tatum?
Well, I was supposed to go to the middle school. Once the middle school was, built, and I forgot the name of the principal, he came to me, and Brenda, who was my immediate supervisor, she really didn't want me to leave. I mean, I was like her right-hand girl. I would do everything for her. And I really struggled, because who wouldn't want to go to a brand new school? And the library there was absolutely gorgeous. But I thought about it, and I thought, well, where am I going to best be needed? So I thought, well, Tatum. Actually, the lady that was at Tatum retired just so that I would go there. So I said, well, I will choose the little ones over the middle schoolers.
Probably a wise move.
Yeah,
Probably a wise move.
Yes.
So you've been doing this for quite some time. Tell me about trends that you have seen in literacy over the years.
Well, right now, everything is fantasy. I mean, J.K. Rowling changed the landscape of how children read. I mean, once Harry Potter came out, then you saw a whole slew of authors coming out with something similar to her books. Prior to that, they were still basic mysteries or realistic fiction or science fiction. Now, science fiction can be connected to fantasy. So, you can grab that reader, for both of those things. I see a lot of kids now, to my dismay, just liking, those, graphic novels. I buy some, but I really try to get them into the other stuff. And occasionally I do. I say, now, you've been reading these. They're fun. I'm not trying to discourage you from reading them, but let's try something else.
Right.
And once they've read the books, like the classic novels, they go, that was really good, Mrs. Deveno. And a student just the other day came up to me and he said, he says, I don't want a lot. He says, I just want a book that, that's good. And I said, well, The Christmas Treasury, I said, it's by Rock. The book is old. It probably was published back in 1950. And my book is old. And the pages are yellowed. I said, but it's not what it looks like. I said, you're going to love this story. So he came over to me the other day and he says, you're absolutely right, Mrs. Deveno. This was an absolutely wonderful story. He says, I'm so happy you gave it to me. So it's that kind of impact. And when I get my little ones in there, I really have them interact with me when it comes to reading a story. So they take part in the production.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. So this is going to sound maybe to the audience at home like an oversimplified question, but I think it's an important one to address, and that is, tell me about really the role of the school library for teaching and learning.
Well, that's taken on a different role, although I've always felt, even like at Piper Road, you bring the curriculum to life. That's the way I feel. So now that I have a smart board, not that I teach that, but my point in library is to teach the kids how to use the library. Because if they don't learn it in elementary, they're not going to learn it in the middle school or the upper grades. And navigating a library is not that hard. And libraries are set up basically the same way. They just get a little bigger. And so if I can teach them, the Dewey Decimal System, where to look for books, yes, you can always go to the card catalog. But say you're looking for something that you're not sure what you're looking for. Say you're looking for a poetry book. Go to the 800s, look at the books, take them out, look through them. Card catalog is going to give you information, but you're not looking at it. You don't know what's inside.
Right.
So that's my purpose now that I can do this, now that I have a room. But it also, definitely, I make it a point to make sure that I have books that pertain to the curriculum in the library, which enhances the students, because when they're studying a subject, they want that material when they come to me. So I try my best to get whatever is needed into the library. E-books, I've asked some of my teachers, and because of the smart board, they feel that it's not necessary. So I kind of steer away from them.
Yeah, so you've touched on what I wanted to go to next,
Right.
which really is what has been the impact of this transformation to a digital age, whether it's ebooks, you're talking about the use of a smartboard in your
Right.
library.
Right.
How has that changed the work that you need to do as a librarian?
Well, I can talk, the Dewey Decimal System all the time, but when I got it up, I did have a smartboard for a little while, it really changed the way the kids looked at it. I have a program that I use. It's children teaching children how to use the library, and they really enjoyed it. And when I didn't have it, I had students come up to me and say, "Mrs. Deveno, you were teaching us all about how to use the library." And I said, "It'll happen again. It will happen again." And I think they really liked it, and were happy that they were learning about it, because it makes their life, instead of, "Mrs. Deveno, where's this? Mrs. Deveno's, where's that?" I can rattle off numbers, that's in the 595s, that's over here. But you need to know it. You need to find it. So I do games with them, and I write up numbers, and I'll say, "Now go find it." And then you stay there, and then we check it all off and whatnot. So,
Good.
yeah.
So trends come
Right.
and go.
Trends come and go.
But what's the trend right now? What are elementary students reading? What are the popular series?
Well, I'll
that
tell
they
you
might be
what's
looking
coming
at?
back is Nancy Drew.
Oh,
Believe
wow.
that or not, okay? Still Diary of a Wimpy Kid, that kind of stuff. But because genres are introduced more into the classroom, they have to read a particular genre. I have to keep on top of that. And so they'll come to me, "I need a realistic fiction book. I need a historical fiction. I need a fantasy. I need," they're coming to me all the time. So I am constantly looking for more materials that I can introduce, or get it up on the computer. Here's our fantasies. And so in that sense, it's wonderful. I'm really happy that this is happening right in the classroom, transfers right to the library. Yes.
And we could go off script here a little bit,
Yeah.
Roberta, but tell me about what kind of connection you have with the public library. So what are you doing with Tony down here, downtown,
Yes.
to make sure that
Yes.
the work you're doing is aligned and supporting
Right.
each other?
Well, third graders, we always take a third grade. Matter of fact, my visit is next week, and she opens up the library to all the third graders in the school system. And so my visit is next week with the 3 third grades. And so what I've tried to do, of course, they haven't had a real library, so what I've tried to do is mimic Tony and whatnot. So when they get there, she reads them a wonderful story. She answers thousands of questions, and they're just in awe of that room. And believe it or not, many of our students don't even go to the public library, mainly because of logistics, I think. Or parents are working and they just don't get the opportunity. But the ones that do, "Oh, I know where this is and I know where that is," you know what I mean? But the one thing that has always been said to me is they don't know how to use the library. So when that was said to me, then, okay, we've got to do something about it,
Good.
right? Yes.
So we've talked a lot about what kids like. Let's talk about what you like, Roberta. So tell me about something maybe that you're reading, or a favorite author that you have, and why he or she is at the top of your list.
Well, right now, I do a lot of reading of the kids' books. I do, only because I need to know what's in them. And like over the summer, I read 5, 6 of those books, or I try during the year, but sometimes it's not possible. But a lot of the authors that I recommend to my students are like Peg Cahart. Let's see, of course, I've read all of J.K. Rowling's. I like realistic fiction, and I like Clements. I love his stories. They're really down-to-earth school stories. There's a favorite one that I read called Because of Mr. Terrupt. It's about a 5th grade teacher who has a really unruly class that many magical things happen in. Not because of magic, but because of him. So, so I try to read so that I know what I can recommend to my students.
Favorite book of all time?
Oh, my favorite book of all time. That's hard. I've had so many. Let's see. Oh, God. Well, I'm going to say right now all the Harry Potters, because when they came out, I'm trying to think of years past. I know I've read, I just can't think of one right now. But when J.K. Rowling's came out, that was the book for me. It really was. Because, it had so many things in it. It had, especially in the first 3, kids supporting children, kids supporting each other, finding out. This was a boy who didn't know who he was not treated right, and found his way, found what he, was, where his parents, where he came from, and how he evolved, and how hard it was for him to come from not knowing anything to all of a sudden, I'm a wizard, okay, well, what do I do? How do I react? So it really is, a kind of like a true-to-life story.
Yeah.
Rowling
certainly has a way to
yes,
let
does.
you escape, and
Right.
her words are
Right.
her words alone are truly magical. I mean, never mind the context of the book.
And I like the way she brought in all that mythology, because mythology was a big thing for me when I was a kid too. Yeah, growing up, yes.
And that obviously brought itself to life in a different way when you're at the museums as well.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, yes.
Roberta, it's been pretty outstanding to hear some of these stories and learn a lot about you and where you've been and how you got here.
Yes.
So, the way that we operate here is we keep this show going by getting suggestions and recommendations of others. So, I put you on the hot seat here to recommend or suggest another guest for In the Spotlight that you think the West Springfield community would love to hear from.
Well, I think I've got it in my mind. I'm not sure she would like it, but I really think Kara Guimond at Tatum. She's been, at Tatum, I think all her school career. She went to Tatum School, so it was kind of like she left and then she came home. And, she's been a 2nd grade teacher for so many years. And she's such a lovely person. I think she would be wonderful.
I can't disagree with you one bit. So, Kara, you are on notice that you should expect an invitation from my office sometime soon to join me in the Spotlight. It's been an absolute pleasure to be joined by Ms. Deveno today. I hope you learned a lot, not just about her own life, but how she works with students to influence their literacy skills each and every day at Tatum School and across the district. It's been my pleasure to be joined by you today. Thank you, and I'll see you again in another episode of In the Spotlight.